So as you can see from the title, the truck is broke down. At first I wasn't sure what was going on. I figured it was fuel pressure because I was driving down the road and everything was fine, and all of a sudden it just killed. And the pump would run and run and run and run and run. Usually it's only like 3 or 4 seconds, something like that. It's good to go, but it would run for 20 seconds or something like that before it would cut off. And so I thought maybe my lift pump had given out, but I got under there, checked it out. I didn't even realize, I knew I had an upgraded lift pump, but it's AirDog Raptor 150 gallon per hour lift pump. So pretty happy about that discovery. Didn't know that that's what I had. Checked the fuel pressure on it, was doing good, showing 26 PSI. I know it's on the little bit of the high side. Some people say it's not best to have quite that high, but it's made for this truck. So I'm not a pro at all this stuff. I'm still learning. I'm gonna leave it alone. But what I did find out, I had 3 codes and they all pointed towards the injection pump, the VP44. So it's the big one. I went ahead and did my research, started talking to people who knew a lot more about this than I did. My truck, being it's the 01 6-speed, it's the HO 245 horse as opposed to 235 horse for the SO. A little bit of a plus, but what happens is the HO VP44 has higher pressure but lower flow, and the SOVP44 has lower pressure but higher flow. So the SOVP44 and the P pump conversion were the 2 most recommended ways to go that I could find from most anyone I talked to. They do have the hot rod VP44 and stuff like that. The HR VP44 is supposed to be a happy medium between the 2, but I think it was somewhere around 700 horses. This guy's running SOVP44 on his, so I'm not hitting anywhere near that. I think I'm gonna be fine with that. So found out that you do not have to do anything special to the ECM or anything like that. If you're going from HO VP44 to the SO VP44, it's supposed to be just bolt in. You cannot go the other direction. You cannot go from SO VP44 on a 235 horse engine to the HO VP44 without, I guess, messing with the ECM or something like that. So I went ahead, I found a great deal on an SOVP44 from Seidel Diesel Group. I'm gonna put you the link below. The guy that helped me out, Lenny, he was great. He gave me a great deal, the best I could find anywhere on the web. And I searched eBay, Amazon, you know, I searched all over the place. He beat everybody's price. He was great in customer service. If you need one, check it out down below. I got that on order and I decided, you know what? If the VP44 is lacking in fuel pressure, which I don't believe I am because I'm showing such great pressure, but if it happens to be inconsistent pressure, which I still don't think I am, but if it does happen to be that, then it'll starve the new VP44 and kill it too. So I said, let me go ahead and get a fuel gauge. So I bought an ISS Pro fuel gauge and the tubing kit and everything, and I got one of the glow shift pillar pod mounts. It's got the triple with the speaker. I'm just going to put the fuel gauge in it for right now and the speaker because I do have the Infinity you know, set up in here. So I got that all on order, but I don't have it yet. So in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to make this look right. I have the upper dash replacement that I ordered from LMC Truck, as well as the AC evaporator core and the heater core. Do yourself a favor. It doesn't matter if your heater core is good or not. If you are taking this dash out, change both cores. The only way to get to them is by removing the dash. So it was a non-issue for me. I knew it's coming out, I'm changing both of them. We're gonna start yanking this thing out. I've got the instructions from Gino's Garage. They actually have the instructions on how to remove it. So I'm gonna be going through all of this and learning how to do it and taking you guys along for the ride. Let's go. All right, so the first thing you gotta do is remove the ground straps. I went ahead and did that. The next thing they say to do is to remove the threshold moldings as well as the kick panels. So let me do that now. All right, let's see what we got next. It says to take the bezel off. I don't know. For some reason, I'm gonna skip that. Next, I gotta remove the center console. That was 6 screws right underneath the bottom of the boot. If you have a 6-speed like me, just gonna lift at the bottom and you'll see them. Now there's 6 5/16 screws underneath the cup holders and underneath where the transmission shift boot was. should be able to lift up. All right, next there's this bracket right here directly underneath the center. A couple of 10mm. Got to remove that bracket now. And there's what that bracket looks like. Next, we're going to remove the glove box. Now we're going to take off these screws right here. And this will move out the way of the striker. And now we have 3 10mm bolts for the airbag. And there are 2 more 10mm bolts in the rear of the airbag through the opening of the glove box. Got to disconnect the airbag first too. It's a yellow plug underneath the opening of the glove box. Now we're going to go ahead and remove the hood latch release, and then after that the parking brake release as well. It's going to be 2 Phillips screws for the hood latch. Release for the parking brake just slides down. And then you have a rod in here that you gotta slip this little retainer off the rod and then slide the rod out. Next, we're gonna take out the kick panel, well, the knee panel right here. Three screws on the bottom, and it just kind of slides up. Next, we're gonna disconnect the airbag module connector. And it's gonna be a yellow connector in the steering column. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove 2 steering column bolts that hold the steering column up. We're going to let it gently set down onto the seat. Next, we had to disconnect the vacuum harness, and that was directly under here, right here. Next, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the 3 connectors on the back of the fuse panel. Get them off. They weren't that easy. I used a long, thin screwdriver. I'm not looking forward to putting them back on. I've already removed the bolt connector at the bottom. It's a 10mm bolt. And now I'm going to loosen the bolts on the bottom sides of the passenger and the driver's side, the kick panels where they were. There's some 13mm bolts. We're gonna loosen them. We're gonna lean this back. Next thing I'm gonna do is remove these screws that are going through the metal brackets. It'll be some 5/16. Here we go. Starting to lean back. I'm gonna go ahead and catch the rest of the straggler screws from the old cap that is no longer there. I'm gonna go ahead and remove the screws from the rear of the dash as well. There are a few along the back, some Phillips screwdriver. All right, what I have to do now is I gotta lift the entire dash up. I'm gonna use some ratchet straps to pull up on both sides, and I gotta get it up and out as much as I can so that I can get to that right there, that air box. It's a bit of a fun time I've got ahead, but you can see the heater core right there. And the reason I'm doing that and taking the air box out is because I have the AC evaporator core as well as the heater core to remove. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and take out the air box. After I lift this up, I do have to go into the hood and take some stuff off. I'm gonna show you. Two plugs right back here on the air box. Took them off. There's also a vacuum line I had to kind of let loose a little bit. I didn't disconnect it, I just let it loose from a couple retainers to give me some slack. Okay, so we have the dash elevated and pretty much out the way to be able to pull the airbox. Now what we have to do is we've got to take out this airbox. Then after that, I'm going to remove the AC dryer because I'm replacing that as well. And back in here is the ECM or ECU, whatever you want to call it. I have to remove that and pull that out the way to get to some screws that hold the airbox to the firewall. Also, I'll have to disconnect the heater core lines as well. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Well, I got the line off of the dryer or accumulator, whatever you want to call it, right here. There's a bit of a fight. Had to use this release tool to get in there, and I don't feel like fighting with the lines over there. Since it doesn't matter because I'm going with the new dryer, accumulator, whatever you want to call it, and evaporator core, I'm just gonna cut it. I'm gonna take off this bracket, some 11mm nuts. And now I've got to take off the heater core hoses. Alright, so it's proven to be too difficult to get these hoses off the heater cores, so I'm going to scrap them and replace them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a straight razor blade. I'm not recommending you do this, by the way. Any of this, really. Don't take anything that I'm doing in this video as a recommendation for you to do it. I'm doing everything at my own risk. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut them off and just replace them. It's too much of a fuss. Running out of daylight, mosquitoes are crazy. I'll pick this up tomorrow. All right, so it's the next day. I found one more nut that had to come off right there. That one right there. And I started tugging on the airbox a little bit, and I got a little bit of movement, but what I found was right here, there was that ground strap right there, was on that nut right there. So there were two nuts, one holding the ground strap and the other one holding the airbox. And as you can see, I started pulling. I'm getting a little bit of daylight. So I'm gonna go ahead and see what I can get done on this. I don't really have a good angle for y'all, so I'm gonna try and find a little spot. Found the culprit. Okay, right here. There it is. Got it out and lower down. Now I've got to make sure everything is, like, here's a line right here. I'm gonna need to disconnect that one. And this one, these are vacuum lines before I pull it out. There's the airbox. I'm gonna go ahead and get a stand and a piece of plywood if I can find one to set this up on and make a makeshift bench. get to work on swapping out these parts. All right, I got my makeshift workstation right here. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the heater core. Be careful not to touch these fins with your bare hands. You'll slice your fingers. It's very, very sharp. That's why I'm trying to grab around. And there's that lovely corroded heater core. Now I'm gonna flip this over and get to work on pulling the AC evaporator core. To do that, I've got to split the case. Definitely gonna give this thing a doggone good cleaning while we got it out. Alright, got the new cores, got these rinsed out. It'll spread a little degreaser in them, then rinse them out. I'm gonna go ahead and start putting them back together. A little lip where the blower motor goes, and I noticed on my blower motor it was rubbing on it, so I went ahead and just kind of ground down a little bit. Should take care of that. Gotta be real careful sliding everything back in together. We're getting somewhere. There's some shafts that these actual blend doors sit on, and there are 2 points on the airbox. You've got to slide them in, or else you're going to put them in a bind. You won't be able to line everything up. So you have to line those shafts up. You have to line up the outlets for the AC evaporator core, and there are little points every so often along the case that stab in to center it. You have to line all those up simultaneously. I'm going to go ahead and stab in a couple of screws to hold it together, and then flip it over and do the rest. I'm going to line it up to where everything fits through this little case. Now we're going to put our blend door actuator back on. Let's run this cable now. Snaps back in place. And so does that one. Let's flip it over. Stick that heater core. And one more right here. There we are. It's ready to go back in. Let's do it. There's the airbox. And there's the fun zone. Now, I don't really have a great spot to put the camera, so I'm gonna stab it in there and just show it to you stab. Sorry about that. There's all my mess. It takes a lot of tools to do this, and can't forget the L&P, the Loud and Proud gear right here. Shout out to Loud and Proud. Make money, not excuses. That's kind of cool. All right, here comes the fun. Got it stabbed. So what I want to do now is go ahead and install my dryer and then hook up all the lines for my AC. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is stab this back in each of those slots on those bolts on each side. You still there? Let's try this again. Doggy Jethro, there she is. Next step, let's stab that upper cover. There it is. Came with some little hardware. I did myself a favor for the summertime. I bought some of this insulation. It's really soundproof insulation. Should help keep the ductwork cooler in the summertime. So I'm gonna put a few little strips in here and look, hey man, every bit helps. Okay, so I went ahead and put my screws behind here, and now I'm going to pivot this up and put the screws through the metal brackets at the top. All right, we're gonna call it quits for today. Losing daylight, get back to it tomorrow. So it's the next day, and I realized y'all already saw all the details of everything being torn down. So let me go ahead and put it back together, all the little odds and ends, you know, the plugs, the screws, the bolts, all of that. Of like, reassembling it is the same thing as taking it apart in reverse. Obviously, you're all smart group. So I went ahead and put it back together, and let me show you the finished result. There it is. That's it for this video. The next one, which will be coming out very soon, will be replacing the injection pump and installing the fuel pressure gauge, as well as the pillar pod mount to put the gauge into. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, if you hit a like and subscribe, that would really help me out and I'd greatly appreciate it. Y'all have a blessed day.